Hello, everybody. It is your Wednesday episode of The Expendable Show. And I'm your host, The Expendable. Sorry, I am 45 minutes late to the show today because I was working. I had to drive around Georgia today and do stuff. But that's okay. That's okay. Well, let's get to our advertisements. So, I got some graphics now. Today's show is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions. We'll trade anything you want. We'll trade your dogs. We'll trade your Pokemon cards. It don't matter. We'll trade it. You ain't getting nothing out of it. We get the best end of the deal. That's how trading works. We rip you off and you get nothing. Just kidding. That's not how it works. But Gatsby Trading Solutions. And next. And once again, for those of you tuning in for the first time, I will be booking events for Gary Michaels, his Bikes, Babes, and Belly Laughs tour with Russ Nagel, the always funny, and which Russ Nagel is the world's funniest biker. So if you like bikers, Russ Nagel. And if you like the show Chicago Fire, Phil Donlin is going to be there too. He's funny. It's going to be a great show. We're already booking some places. So I'm trying to get up into some casinos. That's where I need to be, in a casino, because then I don't have to pay. They just give me money and say, go here, take our money. But yeah, that's going to be a big one. You know what's sad is I tried to book this in one of my hometowns. Like, I have a couple hometowns. Like, I kind of grew up in like a tri-county area. So I claim like all of them, kind of. And so one of my hometowns, Van Wert, they have this really nice performing arts center, and they wouldn't even call me back. What a bunch of bums. I got like 3 superstars in the comedy world that I'm booking for, and my hometown won't even put them on the stage. How pathetic is that? Anyway, moving on. Hi, Rachel. It's Rachel, everyone. So let's get into our statistics of the week. Bonnie. Oh, well, Bonnie says hi to Rachel, but doesn't say hi to me. That's crazy. Bonnie, I thought we were cooler than that. I get it. You're probably on Team Weddle now. You're starting to act like a Weddleite. But here we go. Okay, she said hi now. Gas prices. We're starting to see gas prices continually go down. The average price across the United States is $3.03. I just got yelled at. I've been got yelled at by women like 3 days in a row. I'm getting kind of used to it. I need like both my ex-wives to show up and just start yelling at me. Then it'll be like complete. Mortgage rates. So the mortgage rates, we're looking at an average of 5.875 right now. So that's a good one. We're heading in the right direction. Let's get to 5.5. Come on, Jerome Powell. 5.5. Let's just strive for 5.5. I begged you to get under 6. You finally did it. Let's get to 5.5. And I know I'm probably Jerome Powell's most favorite podcaster, but he's never heard of me. But let's go to Trump's approval rating. Trump's taken a little bit of a hit this week. He's at 44.9, but we've seen him. He kind of floats around up and down. But overall, I would call it a consistent flow in his approval rating. People are panicking because of the shutdown. However, the Democrats are taking a huge hit on the shutdown. Let's see what the Dow Jones closed at today. I was driving around all day out in the middle of nowhere in southern Georgia, so I'm a little behind on stuff. Wow. Okay, so the Dow Jones closed today at 47,632. Dang, that's pretty good. That might be a record. I'm gonna have to look that one up. So good job, stock market. Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the globe right now that President Trump is probably causing those effects. So we're going to get into that. And for those of you Kentucky people, Andy Beshear, your most beloved governor of all time, he's sitting at 4% and is still in 7th place in the Democrat presidential polling. I think he's going to rise though. I'm scared of it, but I think it's going to happen. They're starting to put a lot of emphasis on Andy Beshear in the national stage. Although I still think they're going to try to get him to be a running mate. He'll be a vice president candidate most likely. With his weird self. So, government shutdown. So let's talk about that a little bit and what's going on with that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I wanted to make sure that I covered this so that way people understand exactly what is really happening, because you've got the Democrats saying, well, they don't want anybody to have health insurance. And then you got the Republicans saying what they say. So we're going to give you the facts from the Expendable Show, even though I'm just propaganda and misinformation. So take it as you will. So SNAP is they've created the SNAP Funding Act, which was sponsored by Josh Hawley, who's a Republican from Missouri. For those of you who don't know who Josh Hawley is, he's on TV all the time. So the purpose of this is authorizes the USDA to continue issuing SNAP benefits during the shutdown and retroactively cover missed payments since September 30th, 2025. Okay. So that's what they're proposing. Now, it's been backed by 11 Republican senators and 1 Democrat senator, which is Peter Welch from Vermont. So I'm sure that makes old Bernie Sanders all mad with his hair. His comb over is probably flapping in the wind right now. So it's been referred to the Senate Appropriations Committee. There's been, as of when I made the outline this morning, there was no vote on the floor, which that could have changed. I know they're trying to get a vote this week, so I need to get back on track and find out if that happened. But that's supposed to get done this week. Whether it passes or not, that's a whole other different story. So Democrat alternative, geez, I can't speak today. The alternative bill, which was proposed by Senator Ben Ray Lujan, a Democrat from New Mexico. I didn't know they even had politicians in New Mexico. Surprising. So he proposed this counter, and it requires the USDA to fund both SNAP and WIC and reimburse states that front benefits during the shutdown. It's backed by most Senate Democrats, including Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Of course, Chuck Schumer. It introduced this week. No Republican co-sponsors. Also awaiting committee action. So there are issues with both of these, and we're gonna go through that. So I don't want you guys to think that Josh Hawley's come up with this magical great idea. At face value, it seems like a great idea, but there's issues. So Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, for those of you who don't know, he has dismissed standalone SNAP bills as a waste of time. Now, a lot of people are 50-50 on Mike Johnson on the Republican side. I know my dad's not that big of a fan of Mike Johnson. I kind of am. I'm kind of 50-50 on him myself. There's times I like him, times I don't like him. I think overall lately, probably in the last 6-7 months, he's kind of been pretty well on board with whatever Trump wants to do. He's pushing that. So I'm okay with that. Where was I at? So he's arguing that Democrats rejected broader funding packages that included SNAP on September 19th. The Senate has failed 13 times to pass a continuing resolution to open the government, with Democrats holding out for restoration of Medicaid cuts and ACA subsidies. So then the USDA has stated it lacks the $8 to $9 billion needed to fund November SNAP benefits, and contingency funds are no longer available. So there's our problem. Both sides are playing idiot right now, because they're trying to they're playing a game with the American people. Josh Hawley is, and so is Chuck Schumer. They put these bills together knowing that there is $0 to fund them. So while the left's going, well, this is reasonable, and the right's going, well, ours is reasonable, there's no funds to fund them. They can pass it, but where's the money going to come from? I mean, if we had the same money tree that Antifa has, we could probably come up with the money real fast. They just magically poof, get all the resources they need to tear the shit out of cities. So I don't know. Maybe we got the wrong backers on the Republican side. I don't know. So 25 states and the District of Columbia have sued the Trump administration for refusing to use available appropriations to fund SNAP during the shutdown, which there are no appropriations available. The government is shut down. Like, they are completely outside of their mind. The bills remain procedural proposals, not enacted laws. Without leadership prioritization or bipartisan agreement, SNAP benefits are set to lapse starting November 1st, which will be Saturday. Saturday, SNAP benefits are going to be in jeopardy. Our tax dollars. So Rachel, our tax dollars are still going to where they're to be appropriated. So, X cents of every tax dollar goes here and goes there, goes to the defense, goes to whatever. All that money still goes where it's supposed to go. However, the money can't be spent without a continuing budget. So it's kind of just like in lock and limbo. So the money isn't going to just disappear. It can once they pass the CR, the money that's sitting there can get retroactively distributed back from November 1st. So that money is there. It will be there, but it doesn't solve, the people who are struggling that depend on SNAP. It doesn't help them in this moment in time. So they'll get their get backs, but how long is it going to be? How long is Congress going to be fighting over this? Are we going to be going from, another 5 days, or is this going to go on for another 3 months? We don't know. And that's what's causing a lot of problems. So that money's there. It just can't be distributed at this moment. And they have accounts for these types of situations. However, they've already expended all that money. So next on the agenda, Trump's war on cartels, which is awesome. It's like watching somebody play Grand Theft Auto. I love it. So the U.S. clamps down at sea cartels. They're already adapting. They're going to try and stay alive by moving cargo on aircraft now. So here we go. 10-4. You know what? You're right, Bonnie. I don't think anybody in Congress should be getting a paycheck right now. I don't know if they are or not, but they shouldn't. They're the most worthless people in America. So that report about them going to the cartel starting to use aircraft, that came from Brent Sadler. He's a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation and former Navy officer. But it's more expensive, and you can't move as much by volume, so it's going to hurt their business model. I didn't know there was a business model for selling drugs. Did they sit down with and have a PowerPoint presentation and come out with their business plan and go, well, here's how we're going to improve our profit margins and our bottom line. We're going to make people get naked while they make the cocaine, and that way we know they're not stealing it. So is that part of the business plan? Or what happens if a rocket comes out of the sky and blows up our drug ship? What do we do then? Is there a contingency plan? So Sadler said the shift shows how U.S. pressure on maritime smuggling routes is forcing traffickers to find new ways to move their product and new vulnerabilities for Washington to exploit. You know what they should do? They should do what old dude did in Kentucky on the western part. I don't have my notes in front of me. This just came to my head. they were putting all the dope inside the cows on this big, massive cow farm, and they were moving the dope around the country in the cows. He got busted, and then he killed himself, allegedly. That's a case I still got to go through yet. There's a lot to unpack there. Yet just across the Gulf of America, where nearly all of America's fentanyl supply originates, the U.S. military presence fades to silence. There are no naval raids off of Mexican ports, no drone strikes on cartel compounds, no talk of narco targets inside Mexican territory. The fight stops there, by design. In 2024, Drug Enforcement Administration reports found that nearly all of the methamphetamine sold in the United States today are manufactured in Mexico. And it is purer and more potent than in the years past. So guess what? The meth is going to be better. So get ready, Kentucky. You're about to have your next epidemic wave through your state. The meth epidemic, but it'll be better meth. That applies to every state, actually. There's a meth problem everywhere. So hopefully they get that under control. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Protection reported seizing 27,275,000 pounds of fentanyl. That's a lot. That's a lot of fentanyl. So that was along the U.S.-Mexican border in 2023. So Border Patrol agents reported the lowest number of apprehensions in fiscal year 2025 since 1970 at 283,000. That's pretty darn good. Trump's getting it done on the border. That's impressive. Weddle's people is going to be jacked up for the next 6 months. Border Patrol agents reported the lowest number of apprehensions. I already read that. China remains a key source of the precursor chemicals for fentanyl and methamphetamine, but Mexico serves as the main production and trafficking base. I think it's pretty well known that that's how that works. China sends all the ingredients over, and they're all made in Mexico. Exports from Venezuela and neighboring Colombia are still dominated by cocaine. So tomorrow on tomorrow's show, actually it's a special edition, I'm going to be bringing Victor Hill back, and he just got back from Colombia. So I'm going to grill him on what it's like in Colombia. Like, did you meet Pablo Escobar? Did he turn into Pablo Escobar? So, like, what are we going to learn from Colombia? And we're also going to learn about the craziness that's happening in his district that he's running for Congress, which is getting worse. Like, my county is right beside his district. So it's like, I get to see it firsthand, and I'm over there. I'm in Clayton County all the time. So it's insane. But we'll talk about it tomorrow with Victor Hill at 8:30 on the Expendable Show, Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. We're going to get crazy. I already told him. I said, get ready. We're going to get crazy. Once you go on land, now you've got a sovereignty issue. So this is why the sovereignty issue is the reason why you're not just going to see American troops just go into Mexico. We can't do that and allow Mexico to save any kind of face. We would be infringing upon the Mexican people's sovereignty. So there's other ways around it, but that's not the way to do it. I know everybody in MAGA land's going, just send the Navy SEALs in there and just tear that whole country apart. That's a cool idea. I love it, but it can't happen that way. And I think anybody with a reasonable sense of thinking would agree with that. He argues the U.S. should focus on where its legal footing is strongest, at sea and in international airspace. So that's what Trump is doing. He's attacking these boats in international water, and he's going to attack these planes in international skies. There's no crimes committed in international anything. So that's how that's going to go. The cartels will collapse under their own weight if the money supply is cut off. That's what Trump's trying to do. Trump is being brilliant. at his plan of defeating narco terrorists. It's a great idea, great plan. It's going to save a lot of lives in America. During his first term, Trump allegedly favored the idea of bombing Mexico's drug labs, according to a memoir by former Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who's a complete loser. Some Republicans have since discussed using military force to counter narcotics missions in Mexico. But analysts say those calls collide with legal and political realities that make Mexico fundamentally different from countries where the U.S. has exercised military power. So, yes, military power. Rachel, re-enlist. I need you to go shoot down airplanes in international waters. We're saving lives. So the Venezuelan military, so that's something, Venezuela is becoming a hot topic. If you pay attention to some of the speeches coming out by Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, they're talking a lot about Venezuela. That is becoming, that's okay. I'll just sign off on it for you. Yeah. There's stuff you just push a button. It's like playing video games. You just push a button and 50 caliber rounds go off, like up at the sky. Everything's just traced anyway. The Venezuelan military is relatively weak, said Mark Cancian, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And the Congress passed legislation a couple of years ago declaring them narco-terrorists. None of that exists for Mexico. You would have that much less justification. So he's basically saying, like, you can't, even though it's good for us, it's legal for us, it's not legal in Mexico, in their land. So they would have an issue with that, which I get it. It sucks, but I get it. Lester Munson, he is a former congressional foreign policy aide. He said the broader U.S.-Mexico relationship also makes overt force politically implausible. So you can't just send an overwhelming amount of troops into Mexico. Mexico is very different than Venezuela, he said. We have, generally speaking, an excellent relationship with Mexico. So, yes, we do have a relationship. Claudia Sheinbaum, she's still like kind of Germany and still kind of Mexico. So we don't know how to take her sometimes. Like sometimes she's like, get those guys. And sometimes she's like, don't mess with my people. So I don't, we do have a relationship with Mexico, but only because we share a border and we have to. Other than that, Venezuela, we don't really have a relationship with. We don't really do a lot of business with them. We try not to buy their oil, even though Joe Biden was begging them for it, because they've got that black tar crude oil that nobody wants. It's nasty, dirty oil. That's the only thing we really mess with Venezuela. Well, besides coffee beans, we do buy their coffee beans sometimes. That relationship, Ambassador Earl Anthony Wayne added, extends far beyond security. Mexico has a wide range of relations with the United States, which includes it being our largest trading partner. That makes it quite different from Venezuela and even very difficult from Colombia. So there's the issues. Experts agree that any military strike or unilateral operations inside Mexico would risk unraveling that partnership. And with it, U.S. cooperation on migration and drug enforcement that Washington depends on to keep the border stable. So we do want to keep the border stable. Trump has finally got the border to a point to where it's manageable. Why disrupt that? So I think that's a good thing. J.D. Vance is speaking at Oxford at Ole Miss in honor of Charlie Kirk right now. Even without open military strikes, the U.S. officials are not standing still. The drug war has shifted to quieter fronts at sea, in the air, and in intelligence channels that link Washington and Mexico City. You can put the cartels out of business by hitting them where they're most vulnerable. and where the legal precedents are strongest: international skies and international waters. That's at sea and in international airspace. Those domains, he added, give the U.S. room to act without crossing on the political red lines that come with operations on Mexico soil. Once you go on land, now you've got local populations. You've got potential for collateral damage. You've got sovereignty issues. It's not necessary. The cartels will collapse under their own weight when their money supply is cut off. The approach has reinforced a growing pattern of cooperation. Mexico's government has been trying to be very cooperative on both migration and on drug trafficking. He said Mexican authorities have allowed U.S. surveillance and intelligence sharing to support operations, but that it would be politically untenable for Mexico to invite U.S. participation in direct strikes on cartels. So that's basically where we're at with that whole scenario. It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So I'm hoping that we can kind of get something done there. It's kind of Bro, the northern lower Michigan. Okay, so you're like close to like Marquette. Closing the cabin up. I thought you were supposed to open the cabin when it's cold out. Well, I guess the hunting season's over. We don't get to shoot no moose up in Michigan because Bro shut the cabin down for the winter. Next on the agenda, President Donald J. Trump went to Asia this week. I believe he's still over there. I think he's got to do something with Japan tomorrow. I have to look at the agenda, but I think that's where we're at. President Trump's October 2025 Asia trip focused on peace deals, trade negotiations, and strategic diplomacy across Malaysia, Japan, South Korea, and China. He brokered a ceasefire, advanced trade frameworks, and met with key leaders including Xi Jinping. Bonnie, you need to calm down in the comments. You're getting a little too wild out there. You got to put the margarita down. No margaritas for Bonnie. So he did the peace deal with Cambodia and Thailand, which is a good deal. Trump brokered the Kuala Lumpur peace accords, ending border clashes between the two nations. Cambodia nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize for his role. How come everybody keeps nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize, but the Nobel morons won't give him a Nobel Peace Prize? Can you tell who the communists are in the world? Potential meeting with Kim Jong-un that Trump is expressed that he would like to have. But there's been no formal meeting scheduled. But that's right. Bonnie doesn't drink. I forgot. So hopefully, I mean, I think it would be a good thing. I mean, North Korea's been kind of quiet lately. They're not even, it's weird. When I go back and I think about it, this just popped in my head. When Trump laid the smackdown in his first term on Kim Jong-un, he didn't fire not another single missile. And then Biden gets in office for 4 years. He's firing off missiles left and right and talking all kinds of mad shit about how he's going to blow up the world. And then Trump gets reelected, and now we're back to crickets in North Korea. It's funny because these guys all talk this big game, and then Trump shows up and daddy smacks them. And just like with Iran, they talked all that shit, and then Trump sent over all them stealth fighters and then blew up their country. So now you don't hear nothing out of them. Where'd Iran go? Weren't they talking tough a little bit ago? It's like having like every corrupt politician in the state of Kentucky talking to him. They talk tough and then you smack them and then they go hide somewhere. So there's Malaysia and Cambodia. So Cambodia seems to want to fight everybody. Maybe they just like fighting. I don't know. Whatever. Trump signed a bilateral trade deal, reducing tariffs and expanding U.S. market access. Oh, well, they're not fighting. They're just getting a better trade deal. So that's good. We do a lot of business in Malaysia. I know that I do a lot of business with a Malaysian vendor. Cambodia, not so much, but I don't know what they do there. I don't know if they make something. I don't know. Then Thailand and Vietnam, the frameworks were established to address non-tariff barriers and promote U.S. exports. So Trump's over there getting more trade deals done, and that's probably what is affecting our stock markets, why everything's jumping up again, because these deals are starting to get laid out a little bit more clear. So also critical minerals deals. So agreements with Malaysia and Thailand aim to diversify supply chains and counter China's rare earth dominance. So I had a big, long talk today with, I have a business partner. He's Chinese. And my other business partner, we were talking about it because our company has a very, very massive Bitcoin mine. So we were talking about it today, and we're getting ready to expand that into, we're going to double the capacity within the next 6 months. But we were talking about it, and we were talking about the minerals, and having a partner that's Chinese helps, because he gives us all the inside stuff. He can't stand Xi Jinping, so he rats on him all the time. He tells us all China's dirty little secrets. But China is beating us in producing steel. And I don't think a lot of Americans understand that. And when you pull back the scope of what Donald Trump's trying to do with the rare earth minerals, we keep hearing about it. Like, why is he so hell-bent on rare earth minerals? Because of the semiconductors, because of the infrastructure that is needed for the AI system. Everything he's doing is to position the United States, one, in the AI infrastructure, two, in the semiconductors, and three, into the digital markets. So there's three major things that he's trying to accomplish with all of this movement that he's doing right now. And I think he's ahead of the game. He's pressing very hard for steel manufacturing in the United States. We need it bad. China can't beat us in steel production. That's not good. We should never buy Chinese steel. At the company I worked at a while ago, I know, right? It's shit steel. So I'm going to give you an example, Rachel. So speaking of Chinese shit steel, for one, there may or may not be real poop on it. It's Chinese. Anyway, there's not. I'm just kidding. So I used to deal with a company in Italy, and they were called Zambello. And what Zambello does is they make massive gearboxes for like major manufacturing operations. So we had this big giant gearbox, and our company had bought 4 of them. And these things will run you about $250,000 a piece. So we had $1 million worth of gearboxes, brand new. And each one of them takes like 6 months to order and get delivered. It's a big ordeal. So we were having issues. We kept the bearings in them kept going bad. And we went through all 4 of those within a year. And they're guaranteeing them for 20 years a piece. So we kept taking it back, like, hey, y'all got something wrong with these. Your design's off or something. There's some miscalibration inside the gearbox where the bearings sit. And so we actually had to have a Zoom meeting with the owner of Zambello in Italy. And he said, hey, I looked into it, fellas. Here's what happened. We changed the steel vendor for the bearings. We we switched to a cheaper Chinese version. And so that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. So Chinese steel is no good. I don't know what they do. They don't manufacture it well. Not as good as American steel. There's nothing better than American steel. And China just needs to get over it. And we need to produce more of it here in the United States. Yeah, their die presses. That's a good example too. They just don't make anything out of steel good. I don't know if there's a trick. I don't know. I don't make steel, but I can tell you like how much damage you can do to a good piece of American steel before you really hurt it. It takes a lot. Chinese steel, you can throw it up against the wall and it'll shatter into a million pieces like glass. Well, maybe not that easy, but you know what I'm talking about. So there is also China-US trade talks. There's a method. There's a method that we're doing with the steel that China, they skip a step or something. It's not quite as good as ours. But Trump and Xi Jinping met in South Korea to finalize a trade framework. Trump hinted at concessions on both sides, including possible shifts in the U.S. support for Taiwan. So there's some tugging and pulling going on there. It may be. I don't think Trump holds Taiwan at a high enough at a high standard. I don't want to say high enough because I don't know that I don't know who's right in that situation. But I do know that Taiwan is our competitor in semiconductors. So I can tell you that Trump is probably going to say, you can have Taiwan because we want to own the semiconductor market, which I think is a good thing. So now he's got to go off and meet the Emperor of Japan, and his name is Naruhito. There's a name, Naruhito. I don't know if I said that right. I can't read. Trump visited Tokyo and met Japan's emperor, drawing attention for his cautious movements amid health speculation. Everybody's like, "Oh, Trump don't look too good," but whatever. He just had his reports all came back good. Then he had a South Korea summit. Trump and President Lee Jae-myung Lee Jae-myung. I should probably get the translator to sound these out for me before I do them. I think that would be a smart idea. Emperor Naruhito and Lee Jae-myung to discuss trade and regional security. South Korea pledged $350 billion in U.S. investments to reduce tariff exposure. That's how you get a deal done, folks. It's kind of like how I did my deal today. Give me money or else. That's how you do it. Now, on to Kentucky. So I have big news. So for those of you who follow the Expendable Show on a religious basis, that's not religious, we had a big win. So we were able, between the work we've done on TikTok and on this show, and with the many, many brave people of the city of Paris that were there in the shadows helping me get all the information together and expose the corruption. The police chief of Paris, the big bad wolf I've been targeting for the last 3 months, Myron Thomas, has announced that he is going to retire starting January 1st. That's a big deal. Basically what happened was they had this big meeting where the city council was there, the city manager, the mayor, even the county commissioners, the sheriff, everybody pretty much got together and said, Myron, you got to get out of here. This isn't good for you. And they forced him into retirement. So now the other one, Detective Boyer, the steroid freak that's always punching everything in the squad rooms because I make him mad from 2 states away. He's still on leave. When he was getting so mad at me, this is the absolute truth. This is what the officers in the squad room told me, that Chief Thomas put Boyer on leave because he would get up every morning and watch the videos I would make on Paris and freak out. So he said, take 2 weeks off because some guy on the internet's bullying you. Soft. How you gonna be big like that and you're soft? Don't make no sense. Amen. Praise Jesus for the folks. The city of Paris has been redeemed from their demons. And so he's still on leave, but I have a feeling when he comes back, they're going to be forcing him out as well. He has, I can tell you right now, and these guys don't know this yet, but there is going to be a pending complaint of sexual harassment against the top 3 brass in that city. It's coming. I'm not going to say who it's coming from, but it is coming. But apparently also Detective Boyer also had a complaint by the woman who's a stripper that they hired to be a cop because Detective Boyer said she had a nice rack. Well, somebody finally relayed that message back to the stripper and said, hey, this is what Detective Boyer said about your rack. So she filed a complaint. These guys are insane. That city is insane. But we're going to get rid of all them clowns and we're going to start new. We're going to bring in a good police chief. I'm going to do everything I can to help make that happen. You're right, Bonnie. We're going to get to that here in a second. But it's a big win for the people of Paris. I'm happy they stood their ground and held tough, and they fought their way back. I was just a dude on the internet. I was just a dude on TikTok talking. They put the work in, and they banded together and helped me put it together. And we made a difference because my motto throughout all of this is it takes a community, and it does. There's so many great people in the city of Paris. I've met so many great people. And I've been fortunate because since this has all been going on, they said, hey, you have a lot of police support in this town because of the work you're doing. And I appreciate that for the people of Paris. And I can't wait once, the end of the year hits and we've got a new regime of good leadership. I do want to come visit some of these people in Paris and they've offered to feed me and buy me beers and everything else. Somebody offered me governor of Kentucky the other day. So it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what's going to happen. Maybe I'll be the king of Kentucky. We'll just secede from the Union. That'd be cool. No kings except for Kentucky. So I'm very proud of all the hard work everybody put in. It did pay off. There's still more work to do, but we are getting it done. So it's a good deal. It's a good thing. These people feel the amount of stress taken off of them already is exponential. Also, one of the local attorneys that was representing the police department in one of the lawsuits, he has fled the county and has went to another county. Which I only minutely had him on my radar. So he kind of highlighted himself for me. Now I got to go look into this guy. Like, what are you running for, dude? Thanks for tipping yourself off though, genius. Where do these guys get their law degrees in Kentucky? They're making it easy. So on a serious note, I've been covering the Brandon Bacon Hurley case in Pike County for quite some time now. I'm in conversation with his mom, Alice, and his father almost on a daily basis now. They are phenomenal people. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to meet Bacon Hurley's mom in a back alley somewhere because she's a fighter and she's fighting tooth and nail for justice for her son. So for those of you who don't know, this cowardly coward named Paul Coleman, he finds Bacon Hurley. They got a beef because Bacon is with the girl he thinks he owns, and he shoots Bacon. The first shot, Bacon puts his hand up, bullet defense wound goes through his hand, and then he must have turned, and then Paul Coleman shot him in the back, and it exited out through his torso. It's very clear that this is a murder. However, Paul Coleman is best friends with all the judges, hangs out with all of them, donates money to all of them. So there's this big conflict of interest going on. And they've refused, the prosecutors have refused to indict him. They've refused to even put it in front of a grand jury. So then I picked up the case, started hammering it out, started working with Alice and some of the other people in the community that want to see this thing get done and over with. We want to see justice happen. So Alice has really amped up. She went and talked to Homeland Security. They actually got involved and brought in a special prosecutor from Frankfurt to present this to the grand jury. So there are no Pike County people involved in this case anymore, except for the judge, which that judge isn't gonna stay there much longer. If they indict Paul Coleman, I'm gonna be begging. I'm gonna make a video every day until the judge recuses himself, because they're all connected to each other. So that's he was supposed to get indicted or get put in front of the grand jury on Tuesday. That didn't happen. They pushed it back because apparently the sheriff didn't get all the returns on the subpoenas that he needed. So, which basically means that nobody from the sheriff's office did their job, because Paul Coleman is buddies with the sheriff too. So they're going to try to prevent this, but I talked to Alice. It got moved back to November 18th. So that gives us some time to start to get our ducks in a row. We're trying to figure out who is on the subpoena list and try to find out where these people are at. So that's that. There is a petition going around. I urge you all to find it. If anybody needs to know where it's at, I can point you in the right direction. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to even live in the United States of America to sign it. It's not one of those like exclusive county only petitions. Anybody can sign it. We want to see lawfare and justice get served. And what better way to do it than to help and just put your signature on something. So please do that. If you need to know where it's at, I'll let you know. Plus, when the judges look at it and they go through all the signatures and they go, because I already signed mine. So they're going to see Atlanta, Georgia on there. And they're going to see somebody from Ohio and somebody from Tennessee and somebody from Alabama and somebody from here. They're going to go, holy shit. There's people from all over the United States watching this case. We probably should do the right thing. So that's that. Now, continuing on in the Pike County, I've covered 30 murders / missing people now. And they've all happened from like 2010 to present. So about 15 years, 30 cases. That's a lot. And I'm not even, I probably have 50 more to do. So Bonnie, that's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. There's so many dead bodies in Pike County. I can't imagine anybody could step anywhere without stepping on one. So one that I covered, it's more of a cold case. This was from 2008. I just did this one. It was a young lady named Amanda Bishop. She was a mom, had 2 kids. She went out for New Year's Eve, and by morning, she was murdered. She went out with her boyfriend and somehow ended up meeting up at somebody's house with the boyfriend's cousin and another relative. And so what happened was, at some point they had killed her, and they tore her insides up. They cut the end of her breast off. They dug her eyeballs out and just gruesomely murdered this woman. And everybody knows who did it. One of the suspects failed a polygraph, but you know how many people are in prison for it? 0. Now, since then, the boyfriend shot himself not too long after. The one cousin, he overdosed and died. The third suspect is still alive, and he's the one that we believe it was the actual one that did it. So that we're trying to work on finding ways to get this case reopened. We feel that with the amount of DNA technology that we have now, that we should be able to narrow down who exactly did this. It's overdue. This case should have been solved. The Kentucky State Police at the time, they knew who did it. They had all three of them named as suspects. And they said, oh, we got a really good case. We got a great case. This is open and shut. And then they never indicted anybody. So there's probably some backstory there. Now it's still kind of up in the air. I'm still looking into it. Pike County, I want to urge you all, and I know I talked about this on my TikTok today. I want to urge you all to reach out to your District 92 and District 94 state reps, John Blanton and Mitch Whitaker, and ask them how many more people in your district need to die before you guys act, before you guys sit there and do something about this. How many more people in your constituency need to die? Why haven't you guys called the FBI or the Homeland Security or anybody who will answer a phone and say, hey, we have a problem? And I can tell you what the problem is. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. There is a major drug problem. So if you don't solve the drug problem, you're never going to solve the murder problem and the missing persons problem. There's so many missing people. Like, should we call Homeland Security and say, hey, this looks kind of like a human trafficking problem here. People just disappear all the time here. Nobody knows what happens to them. Or is there a serial killer? You got this many dead bodies. Like, is it a serial killer or is there a lot of different killers? Can you walk outside your house in Pike County and be safe? Is your neighbor killing people? Is the guy across the street killing people? Like, you got all these killers running around your county. It sounds ridiculous, but this is reality for that county. And it shouldn't be like that. No cops are coming to the forefront and saying, hey, we got to crack down on this problem. This is going to turn into a national nightmare. Everybody in the United States is going to know how bad we are at our jobs. And part of it is because of the prosecutors and the judges, like Robbie Wright. He's been notorious across Pike County. He's a judge, but he's also the guy who does the most dope. There's plenty of documented evidence from the Bar Association and the JCC in Kentucky about him being high in court. And also the several DUIs and all the whole county is a disaster when it comes to your elected officials. And you can't get anybody to do anything about it. It's a dirty brass mentality. You're exactly right, Rachel. And they're so used to doing it. It's like their everyday mentality now. But I was told yesterday that they're terrified of me. So I like that. That puts my show at an advantage. Now, am I going to take that for granted? Nope. I'm still going to do my due diligence because I like winning and I'm a trophy collector. So that's how that's going to go down. So I urge you all in Pike County, reach out to your representatives and say enough is enough. Do something. We voted you in here to make our lives better, and Pike County is not better. It's not safe. Y'all got a drug problem. Nobody wants to address it. You solve the drug problem and people stop getting murdered. It's that simple. But in order to stop the drug problem, you got to stop your politicians because they are the contributors of the drug problem. So now on to London and Laurel County, Kentucky. So there was some big news today that actually Bonnie shared with me. She was the first one to break it to me because I was driving at the time when it happened. So one of the very, very valuable people in the community who is a straight shooter down the middle, he tries so hard not to sway one way or the other. William Eversole has announced that he's going to run for the judge executive position. That is a powerful position because you control budgets. You can control where money gets delegated. You have a lot of power in that position. He will make a phenomenal judge executive. Right now, the current judge executive is David Westerfield, who is the person whose weed eater got stolen, where Doug Harless eventually got murdered. So he's part of that chain of events. Now, Weddle's camp tried to throw Westerfield under the bus. So I'm not sure how bad of an actor Westerfield is. I wanted to point the finger at him at first, but then when Weddle starts pointing the finger at people, then you tend to go, well, maybe that person's not quite so bad. And Bonnie, it's going to take a very good campaign, and I think William understands that, and you all need to rally around him, and we can't sway him. You have to let him find his way, and let him do it his way. However, he's going to be attacked. You know that, and so the people of London and Laurel County need to back him and keep him safe. Keep his spirits high, and let him get elected and move forward in a positive manner. You guys are in a position where you can take back the power. You've got all these Weddleites trying to run for everything so Weddle can have total control over every elected office in the county. But you guys got to find people to run against them. That's Weddle's game plan. Just flood the votes with flood all the positions with all my candidates. So that's what y'all need to do. Now, reminder, tomorrow I will be interviewing Victor Hill, and we're going to talk about lawfare, and we're going to talk about corruption, and especially with all the crazy stuff. I always repost his TikToks, and I know a lot of people see those and see how crazy it is over here. Everybody's like, why don't you cover Georgia? Well, we're going to, smart ass. But I just can't do my county. That's not going to work out for me. I still gotta like be safe in my own town. So that's all I've got for today. Tune in tomorrow, 8:30, Victor Hill interview. I'm out. Peace.